Can't believe what I'm seeing here. Jeff just did his first pull after doing their dyno tuning, and this thing went from 89 horsepower to 144.23. That is a more than 50% increase in horsepower. Way to go, man.
I think I can get another horsepower out of it.
I bet you can. I bet you can.
You know, it's at 4,500. The fuel to air goes a little, I'm gonna add a little more fuel right there.
Just been at it for about an hour. Got a little bit of a rough start, but we got everything dialed in. The first pull, just by putting the K&N intake on it, the dyno tune module and the pipes, it put down 115 with the map that it came from Carpenter from. But we had to take the dyno tuner, and Jeff dialed it in, and it's putting down some serious power now. That is impressive. What was the torque at? Let's check. That's going to be an absolutely ridiculous difference. 144.23 horsepower.
And 150 pounds of torque.
And 150 pounds of torque. 150 pounds of torque. I mean, almost right across 150 and 150, really, right? That is stout. That is really stout.
All right,
as you can see, our first run, we were at 114, and then it got it up to 145. Stock, it was 89 horsepower.
Usually on all the sport bikes I've done in the past, you know, you put
that's unbelievable. The potential in this motor is ridiculous. Guys, we went from 89 horsepower to 149. That's 144. That's 55 horsepower more. More than a 50% increase in horsepower with a couple of simple bolt-on items, the intake exhaust and the tuner. Let's go. Making the magic happen. What's the red line at now? Unbelievable. I am really impressed. You could probably hear in my voice earlier, I was a little sad at 115, but wow, 150 foot-pound of torque.
Yeah.
150 foot-pound. That's remarkable.
So now all I got to do is I'm going to work on that backfire a little bit, see if I can get rid of that.
Where was she at on the torque when it was stopped? Do you remember? Because we're pushing 150 foot-pound of torque and 144 horsepower. That's turbocharged Harley Davidson. That's turbo Harley power. You know, you'd have to turbocharge a Harley to put down that kind of power.
We were at 132.
130. Oh, what's that? I can't hear no one this time.
We were at 130.
Jeff, can you explain to us what we're looking at here? Now this top number here, that was 89 horsepower to 144, and the torque went up at 17 foot-pounds of torque and 55 horsepower.
Yeah. So these are your power lines and your torque lines, so yeah, we're just substantial.
Can you point to the horsepower one for me, please?
Well, this is our base horsepower.
It just died off. It just died off, and now it's just climbing.
Now it just climbs right to red line.
What's the red line on this thing?
5,800.
They have another piece of the puzzle that I have to get from Carpenter. It'll get it to roughly 9,000 RPM.
Oh my God!
And
if you want to do that.
Well, it'll put down 240 horsepower.
Well, no, because you'd have to build the motor.
Oh, they build the motor and do everything.
Yeah.
Well, we might end up doing it here. I might order the parts. You want to do it here, or do you want to? Maybe?
Oh, I can. I'm capable.
Yeah, I know you are. Freaking! It's just remarkable what the dyno tuning can do, and that's basically giving it enough fuel so that it doesn't run lean and the motor can breathe. You got it breathing good and put some fuel in it. Just ridiculous. In the hands of a capable tuner like the Manic Mechanic Jeff, you could really work some magic here, but you got to know what you're doing, and it took some time. It probably took about 45 minutes or so to map the thing.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here? The red ones are horsepower.
Yeah, these are, now I'm on fuel to air. See,
oh, air and fuel, yep.
These are the fuel to air down here.
That's air and fuel. And you can see before, which one is the one we're on now?
This red one right here.
Yep.
See, it's climbing up. It's 13 and a half. I'm going to add maybe a little bit of fuel. And look at where it was on our base run. It was way up here heading to 15.
And when it went down low, it was really super lean, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, still when I punch it, it still goes up lean. I can add a bunch of fuel right there, but that was pretty hot when I was...
Yeah, these pipes are not coated. They're stainless steel, so they're going to turn a nice gold color eventually. They're not polished. That's from when it was running lean before we mapped it, and we didn't have the air blowing on it. Turn rainbow, but that'll clean up. Sounds awesome now. He's gonna tune the backfiring out. That's the next step, tune the backfiring out. Guys, Jeff's been down here. I paused the video, but this is half an hour later, he called me back down. What exactly did you do to get the final state of tune? Because it's up to 148.6. That's damn near close to 150. That's super bike range right there, 148.6, guys.
I added a bunch of fuel down low, so it spun the drum quicker on the takeoff. So it was lagging a little fuel down low. I added some fuel and I added a little on top, and it woke it up a little more.
What do you think this will be like on the street?
Incredible. It's going to be a nice, strong, fun bike to ride. That's for sure.
150 horse. That's my CVO Dyno. After we spent damn near close to $4 or $5 grand on the motor, with the pipe anyways, $5 grand, it put 105 horsepower down. And this was basically the pipe and the tuner, like $1,700, $1,800, and we're putting down 150 horse without changing any internal components whatsoever on that motor. 148.6. That's pretty remarkable. I think the large, you can't argue with displacement. You know, it's like the this is like the CR500 of street bikes. You know, it's the biggest, baddest thing on the road, and it's kind of a sleeper. It looks like a touring bike, but from stoplight to stoplight.
The one I did last summer, I think the pistons were 103 millimeters, maybe something like that.
It's the size of a coffee can, basically,
yeah,
right?
3 of them. Biggest ones I've ever seen in a bike.
Wow, awesome, great job, Jeff. Here's the proof. Proof is in the pudding, as they say. Proof is in the dyno jet. The red line on the bottom is the stock horsepower curve, and it looks like it tapped out at about, it was exactly 89 horse, but it was hovering around 89 for a pretty wide spread. And on the dyno jet, dyno tune with the Carpenter racing pipe and the K&N intake and the dyno jet tuner, it just climbs straight up. That's remarkable. It's more than a 50% increase in power. When we're at peak horsepower, this is what that cursor clicked on at 140, damn near peak horsepower, 145. It's at 80 with the stock map. So the peak horsepower is
65 horsepower.
89.81 is the peak, but that's lower in the RPM curve.
I got the cursor right on that little dip right there. That's why. But I mean, if I put it. Yeah, it's 80.
80 to 145. That's 65 horsepower. And the bike only puts down, it's almost double. This should be a real wheelie machine, tire shredding monster. Jeff, what do you think about this?
I've never seen a bike pick up that much power by bolting on, a pipe and an intake and a power command. Usually you get 7 to 10 on a sport bike, 4-cylinder. That's what I usually get.
What do you attribute that to? Do you think this thing's just corked up wickedly from?
The exhaust system on this was holding this back. Had a hole this big coming out the back.
Yep, and it was corked up on the intake, and they weren't giving it any fuel either, right?
Right, it was running lean stock also, yeah.
Now, you can put a Trask turbo on a CVO dyno like I did, and you'll get a 30 to 40% increase in power just by opening this thing up. Now, on a Harley, you'll get an increase in power, but it's more like 10 or 15% putting a pipe and intake on it, right?
That's what kind of horsepower you get when you put a turbo on a bike, a 60 horsepower increase. And look, we did it by just putting a pipe and intake.
Just unbelievable. You know, I've been following the Triumph Rocket 3 development for a while, and Carpenter Racing. I've watched all their videos a dozen times. Their $8.99 quarter-mile run they did on their basically bone stock, except for a different set of shocks on it. It had stock tires on it. $8.99 in the quarter-mile. This is their 145 horsepower package when properly tuned. Basically, the intake, exhaust, and the dyno tuning. They have 180 and then a 240 horse. The 240 horse, they change the heads, the pistons, the cam, and I believe do some head work. So, but now that's another 80 horse, 80 horsepower more.
Wow.
We got 60. There's a potential for another 80.
It's unbelievable.
And I guess they're pretty reliable. There's a couple things that they like to do to the transmission to improve the durability of that, but you're going through a lot.
They probably undercut the gears on the training.
You've been going through some tires for sure, tires and brakes. Well, I'm very pleased with what we accomplished here today. Great job, Jeff. Thanks everybody for watching. I forgot to mention that was with 87 octane fuel. We're talking cheap pump gas from Shell up the street here. The reason why we ran the 87 octane is Carpenter Racing told us they got more horsepower with low octane, just regular pump gas with ethanol in it. We usually run VP racing fuel in our bikes, but they did tell us. Now, I actually wrote it on my hand, MRO2. You put MRO2 in this bike, VP racing fuel.
It's an oxygenated fuel.
Yep, they said it'll pick up another 7 to 10 horse.
Right, another 10 horse.
Which if you're going out street racing, that's great, but I don't think you want to leave it in your gas tank for the winter. That stuff, they said 2 weeks and it'll start gumming stuff up.
Yeah.
But that's just remarkable, the potential here. The design of this motor takes advantage of low octane fuel. Is that because it's low compression, Jeff?
Yeah. I don't know, it's probably 9 something to 1. I'm not sure what it really,
I really like the look of the triple air filters hanging off the side, because really no other bike has that. These are not the ones we're going to stick with. These aren't the ones that were recommended by Carpenter Racing. They recommended the K&N 440i's, but those are out of stock on back order. These will work. They do work, but the 440i's fit a little bit better, and they're perfectly round, where these have a oblong shape, so they don't match up perfectly. But just remarkable. In pretty much, well, in less than a full day, because I don't think we started this till like almost noon. Jeff got the exhaust on in about 7 hours, and dyno tuned it and did the intake, and also painted the overflow bottle so it wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb. That's normally white, and it looked kind of funny. So Jeff took that off, painted it. You took the butterfly or the secondary valves out too.
Yeah.
Took the secondary valves out of the carburetors, and removed the stock exhaust, put on the racing exhaust, and she's ready to take down the track and see what she'll do. We'll have to bring her to Lebanon Valley or up to Epping Motor Speedway, yeah, and send it. Jeff, they say $8.99 in the quarter mile. You want to pilot this thing down Epping? You're lighter than me. It'd probably go faster. You've done some drag racing before, haven't you? What's the fastest you've gone through the quarter?
Like 170. It was a GSXR 1000 with 200 horsepower down in South Carolina when I was working with Lee Schuritz.
Yeah.
He builds some fast bikes. The bike, it was stock wheelbase, no wheelie bar. You had to finesse first, second, and third out of the hole, but you go through the traps at 170. We were only doing 9.3s because it's such a handful that, taking off.
You need a wheelie bar.
If we
or
had a
stretch
wheelie
swinger.
bar, we'd be in the low.
What's it like going that fast in the quarter mile?
Oh, the acceleration! I've never, the first time doing that, it's like wow, the acceleration is really exciting.
Total adrenaline rush, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, we'll see if we can beat your 9.3 on this when we get it back. Stay tuned, folks. This is going to be fun this summer, showing you guys what this can do. Now, we also have to replace the rear tire. This one's only got 1,200 miles on it, but it's 10 years old. This bike's got, old boy who owned it had 13 bikes, and this was his pride and joy. He kept it all waxed up inside and never rode it so very much, Maybe maybe 100, less than 100 miles a year just to parades or whatever he did with it, but around town. But that tire, we're putting on a Avon Cobra Chrome, so we're gonna smoke this Metzler Marathon off of this thing, do a nice smoky burnout for you guys. So stay tuned. It's hard to keep the rear wheel from spinning out there. Roads wet like that. With that kind of horsepower. Can't wait to take it out on the dry roads and see what she'll do. Stay tuned, and God bless America. And all the motorcycle riders all over the world.